This is the Nightshade Cult, a podcast macabre.
We bid you welcome. Enter freely and of your own will.
I'm Nick Grimm.
And I'm David Graves.
We will be your horror hosts for this dissection of John Carpenter's 1988 satirical sci-fi action thriller, They Live.
Good evening.
So I had never seen this movie.
I'd never even heard of this movie. But I'd seen the alien faces in memes and all sorts of things.
Yeah, and this, I remember seeing it at the video store. As a kid, I always assumed it was a zombie movie because of the name and because there's a skull-faced guy on it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really get into that till much later. And then over the last several years, this movie has become a movie that comes up all the time, and people say, "You've never seen They Live? It's such a Nick movie." And I'll be like, "No, I've never seen it." And so I've been like, we'll do it on the podcast someday. There'll be a good reason to do it. And it's election season.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie, John Carpenter released this movie right around the time of the 1988 Bush v. Dukakis election. And it's very blunt politically from where he stands on it. And I thought this is the right time for us to cover this movie.
Yeah, he's very anti-bourgeoisie. He's all proletariat.
Yeah.
He's anti-political.
He literally has a blue skull-faced alien give Reagan's Morning in America speech.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah. And every interview, even stuff from the time, he's like, yes, this movie is about Ronald Reagan and what I think about him and his policies. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I'd never seen it. And it's... I didn't know that Rowdy Piper had starred in a movie, kind of a major motion picture.
Yeah, and he actually quit WWF to do this. Vince McMahon did not want him to do it, and Rowdy Piper's one of those kind of pathological demand avoidant people. You can't tell him what to do.
Yeah, I mean he's always the talker, the face, the heel. He never does what he's told. That's not just a character.
He's from Saskatoon or Saskatchewan.
Yeah, he's Canadian.
Yeah. But we kind of in the Portland area, he lived here for a long time.
Yeah, he's one of ours.
Yeah, we've always thought of him as a hometown hero.
Yeah, he's a former WWF Intercontinental Champion and World Tag Team Champion with Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Which, pretty amazing.
Pretty big deal, yeah. And I always, as a kid, had the hardest time quite putting my finger on where Rowdy Piper fit on the good guy, bad guy spectrum. He was such a loose cannon that he really was just on his own team.
In the WWF, back in the olden days, it used to be called WWF, kids.
Yeah, before World Wildlife Foundation sued them.
Yeah, and then it became World Wrestling Entertainment rather than Federation. Anyway, on the cartoon, he was a good guy. He was friends with Junkyard Dog.
Oh, right.
And Hulk Hogan's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Yeah. So he was a good guy in the cartoon, and so in my mind, he was generally a good guy. Yeah.
I think he just had beef with Hogan, which when you learn anything about wrestling, almost everyone did.
Yeah, he's in the wrestling, Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and he was voted not that long ago, like maybe 2018 or something. He was voted the greatest villain of all time.
Yeah,
it's really weird.
He did the turn many times.
Oh yeah.
Really interesting guy, and just fascinating.
They used to say about him back before the Wrestling Federations employed full-time writers' rooms. You could put Rowdy Piper in a room with a camera, leave, and 20 minutes later, he would have recorded several keepable promos.
Yeah. And a lot of the famous one-liners and stuff that he delivers in this movie are from his wrestling notebook that he
absolutely.
that he kept. like he was like so
he's like a comedian. When he thought of something cool or clever, he'd just like write it down.
Yeah, and so Carpenter would be like, "This, you need to say something when you come into the bank," and he's like, "Get something out of your notebook," and he's like, and that's where the chew bubblegum
and that line is more famous than this movie.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, like because, Duke Nukem uses it.
You know?
Yeah,
and you've heard it so many times, and it was many years later that I found out it came from this movie.
And it makes it even sweeter knowing that it was a Roddy Piper original.
Yeah,
because as a kid, I loved him. He's like the local guy who was also a badass wrestler.
Well, yeah, and people. You could see him out and about because he was local and he owned an auto shop.
An auto shop, yeah. You could go by Piper's Pit and see him, you know.
It was, well, I mean, we had actually a lot of Portland local wrestlers. I think Jimmy Snuka lived in Portland and
there were a couple other mid-range guys, especially from the 80s and early 90s, because the Portland Wrestling or Pacific Northwest Wrestling was really a feeder group for the WWF and the WCW.
Yeah, there's many podcasts that go over this stuff.
Oh yeah,
wrestling. We
are amateurs and noobs compared to those podcasters.
All of the different. There's all these regional leagues, and people would tour between them before the WWF really kind of took over and became
dominant,
the professional wrestling league.
Yeah. There are still some smaller ones that get decent play on like YouTube and other streaming platforms, but it's
that backyard wrestling stuff's wild. Like those people are crazy, and the stuff in Mexico is crazy.
Oh
too.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
much fun. Yeah, I'm such a casual wrestling person. Like where I'll drop in and see some cool video on TikTok or Instagram and watch it and be like, "This is awesome." I'm never going to seek out more of this, but I like this video.
Absolutely. I liked it when I was a kid, and I understand that it's probably really cool. They have huge viewership.
Oh, yeah.
I got a lot of other things that I'm interested in, and it's such a big thing to get into and stay current with.
Yeah. And that's so... Obviously, John Carpenter has a long kind of creative partnership with Kurt Russell, and it's very easy to see how this movie probably was written with Kurt Russell in mind.
Yeah,
but it didn't have that kind of budget. He had a 4-picture deal with the Live Pictures, and basically they agreed to greenlight anything he wanted off a 1-sentence synopsis if he could keep it under $5 million.
And this one was made for $3 million, and its North American box office was 13.4.
Yeah,
not bad.
It opened number 1 at the box office the week it came out, and for such a freaking weird, off the wall movie that costs so little money and doesn't have any movie stars in it, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that this movie is deservedly in the cult classic pantheon. Lots of people love it, and it's just a weird ass like political satire, science fiction. I didn't even know. It's not really horror. I don't know.
There's a horror element to it. It's
there's a dark vibe for sure.
It feels cyberpunk. But there is no cyber really at all. But still, like just the idea of like hacking television signals and all of that stuff, it all feels like quasi cyberpunk. Like it's right on the edge of it.
So I was talking about almost this exact conversation with Carrie when we were watching this, and we kind of narrowed it down to where we might call it dystopian future.
Yeah.
And everything dystopian labeled is nebulously horror adjacent because it's all like weird in a negative way, and it's just like it's got lots of feels bad moments in the whole thing.
Except for this is not in the future at all.
No, it's like in the 80s,
and it feels so much of it feels absolutely current.
Oh yeah,
like especially like the first half hour of this movie could be right now.
Oh yeah, like going to a Hooverville and all this stuff. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. And it's this fascinating movie, and we're already digging into it. So why don't we roll the music and just get into this dissection? A vagabond laborer drifts into Los Angeles and stumbles first upon an underground resistance movement and then backwards onto the alien conspiracy that they're fighting.
It's crazy how being a drifter or a wanderer or some sort of like a hitchhiker or like a man with no tethers and stuff, that seems like a really big deal in 70s music and early 80s.
Yeah.
Like I remember growing up thinking like, yeah, you could be a drifter, just sort of moving along. Like that could be your lifestyle.
Yeah, I got my own tools.
Yeah, he's got tools. He's got the smarts to know.
Yeah.
I want to talk to the union steward.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. I thought that was really good. He's like, this is a union job. And he's like, yeah, I know how that works. And this is in the old days where you go talk to the steward and he gives you a card.
Yeah.
Like it's not, things are, there's no computer involved. It's just handshakes.
Yeah. He just sizes you up. Like, okay, you know what you're up about.
Yeah,
you're up to.
Because he mentions that he came from Denver last, and he can probably name drop some Teamster or not team. They'd be a different union, but he can name drop some union guy from Colorado,
laborers union, which is a thing,
and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I know him." If he vouches for you,
this
it's
definitely
good.
felt like LA. Like it looked like LA. It felt like LA.
Yeah, this goes on the list for sure of LA movies. Like not just filmed there, but very much set there.
Yeah,
there's some weird geography stuff that happens because he goes to that lady's apartment, which would be in like the far kind of northwest corner of the city. Falls down a hill and is in the southeast corner of the city when he gets to the bottom.
Yeah,
and it's like,
that's
I don't know how that quite worked. But
it actually kind of, the geography and the look and the style, it really reminded me of Night City.
Oh, yeah. There's a reason for that. And so he comes into town the same way everyone always loves to shoot Los Angeles from the south across that bridge, looking at downtown. It's like one of the most iconic views of the city.
Even though downtown sucks.
Well, and that's what I thought. Like, I was like, okay, if he's going to walk from the train yards to downtown, he goes through Skid Row. What are they going to do with the homeless camps? Like, that was my first thought. Because even in 1988, that's one of the most sort of famous homeless camps.
Because the weather's nice. Yeah. It's pretty accepting.
It's a permanent tent city that's been there forever. And I was like, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to skip over the homeless camps? Or what are they? It's like, no. The homeless camp is the main setting of the whole movie.
That's where he's going to live.
Yeah. And I was like, holy shit. This movie just right from the start is going for it in a way. Even though I kind of knew what it was talking about, I didn't expect it to do.
Yeah, this really reminded me of like almost like a post. Obviously, it's out of time, but it reminded me of like a post Great Depression style,
like Grapes
thing.
of Wrath.
Yeah, this is just like, okay, I get this. This is classic American tale. You've been done wrong, but you have faith in the spirit of America.
Yeah, and that's. That's some of my favorite stuff in it is him and Keith David, who plays Frank.
Frank is great.
Another quasi-homeless laborer.
Yeah.
And they have these great conversations where John Nada, Rowdy Piper's character, is still optimistic that this is just a downturn from him. And Keith David as Frank gives him that look that your black friend gives you when you've said something stupid and white. Like, it's because he's like, I still believe in America and I play by the rules. And Frank looks at him like, we're standing here in a homeless camp after working a 9-hour day. Maybe someday you'll live in one of those towers, but I'm never going to be there.
Yeah, you're definitely a temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
Yeah, and Frank and Keith David just with a look. He's the master of looking at this guy. Like, I wish I'd never met this man.
Yeah, he has some smolderingly angry looks later in the movie. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, so it is obviously directed by John Carpenter. It is written by John Carpenter under a pseudonym. He wrote it as Frank Armitage, which is the name of Keith David's character, and it is a
famous artist, right?
Oh, no, it's a name from a Lovecraft story.
Oh, okay.
Dunwich Horror, I think. And so, yeah, he did that. He didn't credit himself because, Piper made contributions. His girlfriend made contributions to the screenplay.
Okay.
So Frank Armitage is sort of an amalgam of several people, and it's based on a short story from a pulp magazine by Ray Nelson called 8 O'Clock in the Morning. That was adapted in 1986 in a comic book. And that's where John Carpenter saw it, was the comic adaptation from 86.
Okay, that's really cool, because I was wondering where he got the idea, because this is it's a simplistic story front to back, kind of like Halloween. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's interesting how it unfolds.
Yeah.
I am often a critic of how they write movies, and they are slow, and they focus on things that don't actually matter. But I feel like the first act of this movie, even though it was a little slow moving, it was interesting the entire time. Yeah. They had lots of little, I guess, lore drops, like little things that will come back, that will call back. Like, it's strange how fascist the police are, like, and they're just like straight up terrible. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, what's going on with this? And then little things, and every time the TV would be on in the camp, and like weird messaging is happening, or the street preacher saying these really strange messaging. So it had enough weirdness dropped in that the unfolding of the story it kept my interest, and I felt like it was really good at show don't tell. It's
very organic, because basically Nada drifts into town as a complete bumpkin, right? Mm-hmm. Even coming from Denver to LA is a big change citywide, even though Denver's a big city. And he has this weird sort of naivete to him, but he's curious, and sort of open-minded, and can't leave something alone when he sees something weird, like when he sees weird stuff with the church that feeds the people at the camp. He's sort of like, what's going on over there? And like, he has to investigate it and everything. And it's just through him discovering the mysteries of this story, the audience discovers them. And no one ever really tells you all about it.
Yeah, there is no exposition aside from when they finally kind of infiltrate the rich guy's gala thing, and then the TV exec kind of explains it all, but that's near the end of the movie.
Yeah. Well, and that's the guy from the homeless camp.
Yeah. He's like, I knew you'd make it up here, blah, blah, blah. I knew something about you.
Yeah, he's like, I was hoping you boys would find your way here. Which is basically the same thing that people in the Resistance say. Mm-hmm. Like, neither one of them is recruiting. They just sort of wait for you to find your way to them, and then you're in when you get there. Yeah, it's all... I mean,
the writing is really good.
Yeah. John Carpenter, it's weird because he's such a niche creator.
But in fact, both are correct.
Yeah, I know. I covered my bases. But it's there's a reason why, like, someone like Jordan Peele says he's the greatest living horror director. Like,
yeah, he's really good.
There is, like, he just has a knack for this sort of storytelling, and he just makes his weird shit and is happy to do it.
It has the John Carpenter stank all over it, like, automatically.
Yeah, it's like Bleak, and not hopeless, but it's going to have a sort of dark ending always. Like,
yeah, I would almost call it immediately from the first scene of any John Carpenter movie, it feels ominous.
Yeah,
like something
bad
terrible is going to happen. You have a sinking feeling in your gut.
Yeah.
Even in sunny Los Angeles, you're like, this is kind of bad.
Yeah. It's true. And the thing I couldn't stop myself from doing was imagining how Kurt Russell would do it.
Oh, yeah.
And how, so all the Kurt Russell, John Carpenter movies, he's generally doing a character. Like Snake Plissken is Kurt Russell doing Clint Eastwood, and Jack Burton is Kurt Russell doing John Wayne. And I think this one was written to be Kurt Russell doing Stallone.
Huh.
Because there's all these sort of John Nada is Rambo-esque at many times. Like the way he drifts into town is very John Rambo. And then the later action scenes where he's firing the machine gun, kind of pray and spray one-handed.
Oh, yeah.
That's totally Rambo.
You know, this made me think like this movie, this whole deal is very influential on Reacher.
Oh, yeah.
The
Drifter.
The novel series, and then made into movies with Tom Cruise, who not very good.
Yeah.
But then the series, the series on Prime
with Alan Ritchson.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
If you like a drifter who kicks a lot of ass.
John Nada is a little bit of a proto Reacher. That's a good call because, just shows up. I got my own tools.
He's like a solo A-team.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know much about him except for the scene where he talks about his tragic backstory when they're in the hotel. And that's a Piper joint. He wrote his own backstory.
Nice.
And it seems very likely that is all pretty autobiographical for his actual life. He had a tough childhood with a rough dad and left the house very young. He says, he was a professional fighter by 15.
Wow.
Which is quite young to be.
It's pretty insane
to be a wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Piper was really good in this movie. We're not at the performances yet, but the writing, those pieces, some of the best lines in the movie were from him.
Yeah, he's uneven, but there's moments of greatness in it. Like,
I want more Piper movies. Well, I mean, he's dead now. But
he did more movies. He did another movie this same year.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
is it pretty good?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
Oh man, is this going to become a wrestling podcast? No, I'm just kidding.
I've always wanted to see it. It's called Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Oh shit!
And it's got like man-sized frogs in it. So,
oh man,
I have always wanted to see that movie. So.
That's a little off menu. That might
it's a monster movie for sure.
Okay, so I was thinking maybe that might be bonus episode material, but maybe we just slip it in somewhere.
We'll find a spot for Hell Comes to Frogtown
somewhere that has some movie that has ridiculous monsters that this could like tie into somehow.
Yeah,
like when we do a Sharknado special or something.
I've never seen those movies.
Neither have I.
We should definitely tackle Jaws before we get to Sharknado.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Are we done with that?
Yeah, I think
no.
so.
Actually, we haven't talked themes.
Sure. I mean, this is like subversive social commentary, like the whole movie.
It's theme rich. It's about consumerism, Reaganomics,
corporate greed, media manipulation.
For my money, this movie demonstrates the same ideas as The Matrix in a much clearer way, like a less obfuscated, more direct way.
It's extremely direct. It kind of beats you over the head with it.
Yeah, this is a better analogy for what it means when someone says that we live in a simulation.
Yes.
The simulation is the stuff you see when you're receiving the broadcast and the glasses block it out. Like it's so clear and to the point.
Yeah, I think that this is some people in our society need this kind of directness because something like watching The Matrix or like they're the ones who watch Star Wars and think that the rebels are America.
Yeah. Well,
not the Empire.
And to that point, there is a subset of people who interpret this movie as being about Jews.
What?
And how this was John Carpenter unveiling the big Jewish conspiracy about how the Jews run everything.
No.
And he has directly been like, no, it's about Ronald Reagan. Like,
it's about Ronald Reagan, and it's about oligarchy.
Yeah.
It's about media control, and how even before the internet, being glued to the TV and all of that rots your brain, and they control you through the messaging.
Oh yeah, and it's like, because there's a point in the early on where he's sleeping in an alley watching a commercial for press-on nails through the window of some people in their little hovel.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you're seeing like he's the bottom rung of society, basically. They're one step up in the shithole apartment, but everyone is looking aspirationally at the beautiful people on the TV.
Yeah.
And they're so far away from you, and they're so far away that they're actually a different species. They're an alien race that's colonizing us.
I don't even know what to say about people who would think that this is about Jewish people. Fuck those people.
Oh, for real. Yeah. I'm just, that's why we're doing this at election season. I'm going to say Nazis are bad. I thought this was settled. But since it's back in the news,
it's like, weird thing. We're the ones that killed the Nazis. Yeah. We should still be on the side that opposes that shit.
Yeah. We still don't like Nazis. 1988, 2024. We don't like Nazis.
Yeah, it's no good.
It's crazy.
So let's get into the visuals, because this movie is gritty and low budget vibes the whole time. It is not polished in the least.
Yeah, cinematography is by Gary Kibbe, and he did a few movies with John Carpenter, and it's complicated cinematography because it's hard to go back and forth between color and black and white, especially in a non-digital. Like, now you could do that by we just desaturate, and you can digitally manipulate things. The way that they do it, it requires completely redressing sets, and they have to do a lot of work to do this old school. And it's very effective. He puts on the glasses and it becomes an episode of The Twilight Zone or Outer Limits, one of those old 60s sci-fi shows.
Yeah, it almost felt like everyone dressed really old school too. Like, it felt like kind of a throwback movie.
Yeah.
Even though it came out in 88, I was looking at the years of all the cars in the movie. I didn't see anything from the 80s.
It's all 70s cars. Yeah.
They're all older, and everyone dressed kind of dated. I don't know if that was...
Except for the more upper class people, like...
Oh, yeah. There were people with nice, fancy stuff. Yeah. But, yeah, it was a dated look.
Yeah. Like, God, what's her name? Evelyn from Masters of the Universe. She lives in 1988.
Yeah,
like, when they go to her house up in the hills, like, it's super... like the tackiest.
She's like Clark Griswold's neighbors.
Yeah.
Super 80s people.
So the art direction was by Daniel A. Lomio and William J. Durrell Jr. And I hope that Shepard Fairey sends them a thank you card every year, because he wholesale lifted his Obey logo, font, and everything
absolutely
directly from this movie. And he's built an empire off of it.
Yeah, this is the number one visually notable element in this movie is the subliminal messages, which go from subliminal to hammers on the head.
Yeah.
When you put on the glasses, and all of that propaganda and the essentially obedience porn is ridiculous.
Procreate.
Marry, procreate, consume.
Yeah, I like the dollar bills just are blank sheets that say "This is your God."
Yes, I love that one. This is your God. A whole handful of those papers.
Yeah,
that was the most interesting element to me. Of course, I loved the practical effects of the alien disguises.
Yeah, and
those were amazing.
The prosthetic makeup artist is Michael Mills, and the budget shows here because they're just like latex masks, right? They're not complicated prosthetics, but it works because they don't need to do much.
Yeah,
they just need to look freakish, and when he puts like like clearly not human.
Yeah, because when he puts on the glasses and they put on those, they have those masks, it's like there's almost like a film over the camera. So it's like a strange discolored look. So it makes it look even more interesting than just the latex mask.
Yeah. And his sort of the way that they play that all out is he is kind of walking around the city, putting the glasses off and on again.
Yeah.
And we're slowly revealing all of the subliminal messaging that you're receiving.
Imagine how long it took to cut this back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Probably a while because it's all manual.
And shoot, like, you know, I mean, you have to do it on different days probably because it's not effective. It's like you have a black and white day and you shoot all your black and white stuff.
And then you shoot all the color and then you cut it together.
Yeah. Very complicated. Like, everyone is working very hard to get this in under budget.
Yeah, I think that those alien disguises were really cool, kind of pseudo skull inspired. It reminded me of The Shape, how they did a lot with a little.
Yeah, because that's just an over the head vinyl mask too.
Yeah, it's just really latex, well done.
Yeah. Master of just doing it with as little money as possible.
Yeah, just a cheapskate horror master.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anything else?
It's a very simple visual movie.
Yeah,
it's all about messaging and a little bit of weird imagery.
Yeah, but that imagery is the stuff that has stuck with people, I think, over the years.
Absolutely. Like the skull face from They Live is a classic image. Everyone's seen it, even if you haven't seen this movie.
Well, yeah, so when I brought it up to you the other day, and you're like, I've never seen that, and you Google it, and I said, you've seen that face? And you're like, oh, yeah, I've seen this.
Definitely.
Like it's on T-shirts. It's on posters. Like you said, memes. Mm-hmm. It's just as... Imagine this movie now with cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
Because it has the sort of like the cell phone and the way that people record themselves constantly.
Oh, and if they released this movie, they would co-release an AR app that let you look at the world, and it would replace text with propaganda.
Yeah,
it would be like really cool.
There is some irony to how heavily merchandised this movie has become over the years. Where, but John Carpenter is real open about. He says, "Oh, I'm a happy capitalist. If you write me a check, I say thank you. I'm against unrestrained capitalism."
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he's like, I love to make money. Everyone loves to make money. And it's like, but the idea that these corporations have our best interest in mind is outrageous.
Yeah, we know exactly what happens with unrestrained capitalism because the Industrial Revolution happened and unrestrained capitalism and industrialism happened. There were no laws.
I mean, think of all the unemployed children we have now.
Yeah, I know.
Where they could be in mines.
And their version of reform was voluntary reform was in, I think it was 1844, England passed a law that you had to be 9 years old to work in factories and 10 years old to work in mines. It's like, okay, corporatism is bad because we know what happens. If you don't know what happens with unrestrained capitalism, it's in the history books.
And it is really funny. Whenever you're arguing with like a radical libertarian or just those really,
people don't argue with me because I'm a history teacher.
Yeah, any more, even just a regular Republican. Yeah. and you say these sort of things like we need to have these regulations because child labor laws and environmental protections and all of these reasons so we can have drinkable drinking water. Yeah. And they're like, they wouldn't poison the drinking water.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. It was like, but they wouldn't do it again because they learned their lesson. And you're like, no.
If it's profitable to sell poison water,
them to stop.
They do. And the sad thing is, I guess this is in theme with John Carpenter. The sad thing is if you allow it and they don't do it, their shareholders can sue them for not pursuing the greatest avenue of shareholder benefit, which is their legal obligation as a publicly traded company. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. You have to regulate them. I mean, otherwise they are, like you said, obligated to do that.
Yeah, not only are they profit motivated, they're legally obligated. So it's to pursue maximum profit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely stark that anybody would watch this movie and be like on the side of the aliens.
But then, that's so when they shopped it to Universal, the executive from Universal told John Carpenter, "I don't understand what the threat is. We all sell out every day." And he's like,
That's going in the movie.
That's going in the movie. That ended up being dialogue in the movie. But that was so that the corporate overlord guy didn't actually see, like, how is this a horror movie? I don't understand. Like, what are the aliens doing wrong? I don't get it. And it's like, God, that's
because you lost.
That's the point.
Your soul is gone.
Just because you're one of them, you are one of these aliens, and you're what the movie's about.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I don't think one political party has a monopoly on this, because both of them are like on a full IV tap of corporate money.
Oh yeah. In that big room, when they have the big gala with the aliens celebrating their human collaborators, lots of Democrats in there.
Both sides.
I will not pretend otherwise.
Yeah, there's probably like at least 8 out of 9 members of the Supreme Court. I think Sotomayor wouldn't do it because
she would take the alien.
Yeah, I think she's the most ethical one on the court. Actually, I don't know
the dissent.
Yeah, I don't know the newest justice. I haven't studied her portfolio, but of the other ones, for certain, she wouldn't do it. But the other ones probably would.
Let's just be. There wasn't a lot of brown faces in that room.
No,
like it's very much. There is a lot of racial undertones.
If you look
movie.
at 80s politics, that was perfect. That could have been Congress.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just what it is.
Yeah,
and that's why it was great that Keith David played the friend, the sounding board.
Yeah,
and how he was, even though Nada was not optimistic in general, what little optimism he had, his black friend was there to be like, nope.
Yeah, yeah, because he does that whole and. To your point, like it is a very Grapes of Wrath sort of speech where he's like, we bailed out the banks, or no, we bailed out the steel mill, and they gave themselves bonuses and shut the mill down.
Yep.
And it's like, that's what happens. That's the same. And Nada has that thing where he left Colorado after the savings and loan thing. He's like, this many banks closed down in one day, and it was time to get out of town or whatever. And it's like, yeah, all this shit was really happening at the time, and it continues to happen.
The lack of regulation of the financial sector, that causes instability. That's why we need more regulation.
Yeah, that's
I
typical.
know. I'm a pinko.
Right, that's commie talk. Audio?
Yeah, I mean, so Alan Howarth composed the score?
Or collaborated with John Carpenter.
Yeah. Obviously, Carpenter plays the music and whatnot.
This is their final collaboration. I think it's the 4th movie that they did together.
Okay. Was he part of Halloween?
No.
Because Halloween was rewritten by Carpenter like over a long weekend. And that was pretty solo. Honestly, this music felt weird. It didn't feel very Carpenter.
It's very bluesy, which is
so much blues.
Is different from his typical milieu. I've been listening to the score off and on today, and it gets more into the typical Carpenter sounds the deeper into the conspiracy you go.
Yeah,
but Nada's theme is like slide guitar, and it's a very sort of Western blues sort of thing.
Yeah, this soundtrack. It was released as a solo album, an album, and then re-released in 2008. I was not super into it because it didn't evoke any of that. Like, it's almost like the music, especially Nada's bluesy theme, was the opposite of ominous and dangerous and dystopian proto-cyber future punk.
Yeah.
It just was the opposite of all of that.
It's more organic. There's a saxophone, which you always hate.
Yep, thumbs down.
And there's guitar, and you play guitar.
Yeah, I like guitar. Yeah.
But it is not it doesn't sound as Carpenter-y as other ones. So the movies they collaborated on were Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, Prince of Darkness, and then this one.
Okay.
But he's involved in all of the other Halloween movies.
Oh wow.
As a composer, so he's a frequent collaborator of Carpenter's, and maybe he's the sound designer of this movie.
Yeah, I was trying to track that down, and there's nobody singularly credited as the sound designer.
Yeah, and he's not credited as being on the sound team.
Yeah.
But if you listen to the soundtrack album, a lot of the sound effects are in it. So like the sound of the teleporter gets a track on the album. And so I think he did uncredited sound design, or him and Carpenter did it together. It's probably hard to delineate which one of them did what when they're working so closely together and with such little money.
Yeah, it was just a collaborative effort. Yeah, I think that the music, when it got like when they were in the tunnels and it felt kind of oppressive, fascist, whatnot. It's
very Escape from New York then.
Yeah, I really liked that. That sounded really cool, but I didn't like the kind of jingle jangle pseudo western. Tumbleweed goes by wandering into town.
That's exactly how I felt too. Like I was like, this is a Cowboys theme song. Yeah, and I guess that's what you're supposed to be picturing when you see him. He's a modern day cowboy. So I think it's grown on me. It was not like Halloween or Escape from New York or some of his other scores that I just liked as soon as I heard them. This one was a grower, not a shower.
All right.
Like I had to warm up to it.
Yeah, I never really warmed up to it, but that's okay because I wasn't in this movie for the sound. I was in it for the weird messaging and the alien masks and all that. That's what kept me going.
Cool.
So you want to talk about performances?
Let's get into it.
We already kind of gushed about Roddy Piper.
Yeah, but so this is his first starring movie role. Like I said, he got another movie out this same year, and he did a lot of acting after this. Pretty damn good for straight from the wrestling ring.
Yeah, definitely. He's really good.
Yeah. Carpenter met him at WrestleMania 3. And he also met Alice Cooper there. And that's
nice.
Why Alice Cooper is in his movie that preceded this one, Prince of Darkness. And he just immediately locked on to Roddy Piper as, this is Nada. This is the guy to play him.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, he did a great job. There's no doubt. Like, you can't watch this movie and not be like rooting for Nada.
Yeah, he's very charismatic. All wrestlers run weird. Yeah, it has just to do with the way they're built. But he also had a crushed pelvis, I think, which at some point, and that has something to do with his weird run. But yeah, he just has an interesting way of moving. He's very watchable. Like, he gets your attention when he comes into a room. And even more so if he's holding a shotgun and delivering one-liners.
This is just a really good performance. It was well above what I expected. I thought it would be kind of schlocky. Like, if you watch some of the earliest movies that like The Rock did, or like
Hulk Hogan has never in his life given a performance as good as this one.
Oh, never. No,
none of his movies.
Okay, I want to go on record. You know, we're 40 minutes deep or whatever in this podcast, so only the true cultists are listening. I don't have to worry about Big Hulk or WWE or any of that. The Hulk is a hack.
Yeah.
He's white trash. He's a garbage person. His family are shitbirds.
Yeah.
He's a horrible human being. He is like the worst Florida man of what Florida has to offer. He's just a piece of garbage. No respect. He's no Piper. He's no Undertaker, who I also recently lost for some respect for due to his politics.
Yeah. He's
no Superfly Jimmy Snuka. He's even no Ultimate Warrior, who also had sketchy politics.
Yes, he did. If Hogan was in this movie, the only person he can be is the homeless guy that sells out and joins the conspiracy.
Yeah, he could only be the Rat Fink.
Because Hogan has sold out his fellow wrestlers to Vince McMahon so many times, despite the fact that he's been treated like shit by that organization.
Yeah, nobody likes him because he's a serial turncloak.
Yeah.
He's just irredeemable.
Like the Iron Sheik says, fuck the Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I'm way pro Iron Sheik compared to Hogan.
Yeah. Kept it real. And you know what? We're calling out wrestlers. Sergeant Slaughter, who follows us on Twitter, always a favorite of ours too.
Yeah, Sergeant Slaughter, good dude. I thought you were about to reveal something sketchy that I didn't know about. I was like, no, I liked him.
No, Sergeant Slaughter is our most high profile follower, I think. So
dope.
Yeah,
because I've always liked him. He goes in that 80s pantheon of the WWF guys that you can like.
And he was also a G.I. Joe.
Yeah. What's not to love about G.I. Joes? I had the Sergeant Slaughter G.I. Joe.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Sergeant Slaughter seems pretty cool.
All right, so fuck Hulk Hogan. Back to this. Keith David. Dude,
amazing.
He is like, he stole so many scenes.
Yeah. He's so good in it. And while we're talking about them together, because they're such a good double act, the longest fight scene.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
How many times you got to suplex a guy on the pavement?
So in the screenplay, it said they fight, and there was 5 blank pages. And
he was sending a message.
Yeah, and Carpenter said he wanted it to be clear when people read the screenplay, it wasn't just any old fight. This was a special fight. Okay. And the fight itself would have a 3-act structure to it. The fight was a story in and of itself.
Like a wrestling match where, you got to... the whole deal. And the drama of it all.
Thematically, and I have to thank the Blank Check podcast, because it's where I got someone pointed this out. It's about the white and black underclass fighting amongst each other while the enemy is profiting off of them.
Absolutely.
So the fight is representative of how many years of racial struggle we've had in this country. That's, representatorily, that's how long the fight goes on.
Yeah, it's like modern politics, them saying, look at the immigrant, while they rob you blind.
Yeah. And it's also the thing that I found, like, you have this thing that happens where the white person becomes class conscious all of a sudden and turns to their black friend who was trying to tell them what was up before. And they're like, no, I've really uncovered some stuff. And the guy is like, I am just trying to live my life. Don't pull me into your shit. He's like, I'm going to force this on you. I'm going to make you see what I've seen. And he's like, I just want to do my job and send money home to my family. And it does ruin his life to have the conspiracy revealed to him because he dies.
I mean, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. And he was woke enough. Like at that point, he didn't need to go full woke.
At this point, this was the Matrix. He forced him out of his pod.
Yeah. Morpheus gives you 2 pills to choose from. John Nada fights you for 8 minutes.
He force feeds you the pill and wakes your ass up and drags you out.
Yeah, whether you wanted it or not. And it's Keith David. I think he'd done dance training and boxing. Obviously, he's not a professional wrestler, so he had to learn a lot to do all this stuff.
But it wasn't a spectacular fight by modern standards, but then again, it was pretty good for the day for non-martial arts movies, but ultimately it was too long. Yeah, that fight scene was too long.
You got bored of it.
It was too damn long.
It does.
Also, I don't know if you've ever been punched really hard in the face, but taking that many punches, holy hell! There's no way you keep fighting.
They fought hard, and they look beat to shit when they look
terrible, and then the next day they look fine.
Yeah. But when they're walking out of the alley to like the slummy hotel or whatever, and they're kind of holding each other up, they look like they've been fighting for several minutes.
Absolutely.
I love Keith David has just a few great deliveries, like where Piper tries to punch him in the nuts, and he's like, "You dirty motherfucker!"
I love that.
And there's the one where he swings the 2x4 at him and smashes the window. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I went too far." And then Keith David breaks the bottle, but he cuts his hand on the broken glass.
It breaks too much, and it cuts him.
Yeah, and Piper laughs at him. It's like they have such good interchanges with each other, and their real life friendship comes through in all that stuff because they got tight while making this. Because you have to. Like, you're spending a lot of time, like, rolling around on the ground with each other. You're going to get cozy. Like, you have to get comfortable.
You become buddies or you hate each other.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that can work, too, for a good fight.
Sure.
But luckily, the other one happened. This is David's second time working with Carpenter. Of course, he's in They Live, which is probably Carpenter's masterpiece.
This is what we're talking about. They Live. The Thing. Okay.
The Thing, yeah. Probably his opus film, but
okay. I don't think I've seen that movie.
Oh god, we'll do a head to head with the original 50s one and the Carpenter one.
All right,
yeah. But yeah, Keith David is great, and he's just stayed working. You know, that guy's been around forever. Yeah, he's the voice of so many commercials, and
he's on so many shows.
Yeah.
You look him up, and you just like, oh yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. He's had that voice and that look, you know, since he was very young. He's one of those people that has a lot of gravitas.
Yeah, like his gaze is extremely heavy.
Yeah,
like he can like stare someone down.
Yeah, and that's why when he's the voice of like Goliath on Gargoyles or Spawn or something like that, he elevates that material and makes it like it's Shakespearean when he does it. Like Christopher Lee does that, elevates material when he reads it. Yeah. So Keith David, awesome.
I mean, gosh, there's a lot of actors and a lot of people that you could call out for kind of smallish roles.
Yeah. Only a few that really do much, though.
Yeah, like Meg Foster is on my list as Holly Thompson. She's interesting. I like how she's kind of a rat also. She turns.
So, does she know about... Is she already sold out when he kidnaps her? Or does the thing get revealed to her and then she gets brought in?
I think she already knew.
You think she already... Because she works at the TV station.
And she called immediately, and it didn't... Like, even if it was the police, if she knew, that would make sense, right? Yeah. And if she didn't know, then, you know, I don't know. She works at the TV station, and they know her, of course.
Right.
So I think she knew.
It does sort of...
And then she was an infiltrator at the Resistance
At the Resistance thing. She was not a convert. She was an infiltrator.
Yeah.
She is the reason why the cops show up.
Yeah, oh yeah. Because they never gave a reason why the cops showed up.
You know, what I wondered was if it was because they were fucking with the watch.
Okay.
Because they're trying to figure out how the teleporter watch works. And I was wondering if they sort of GPS themselves with the watch. And so I was not expecting her to turn. So when she makes the turn, it totally blindsided me.
Yeah, I never really trusted her. I was like, huh.
She always plays villains. Like,
yeah.
And it was sort of like, she's the love interest in this movie. Because I'm watching it on Peacock. And so it told me at the beginning there was nudity.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like...
It's like right at the end.
It's right at the end. So I was assuming at some point there's some sort of sex scene between her and Nada. And so I was like, she's the love interest. And I just sort of like... My mind just kind of wrote her off as not a potential villain, even though that lady always plays villains.
Yes, and she was a villain.
She was a villain the whole time, and she duped me just like that's what you can't trust these ladies. That's another one. I'm sure Frank could have told him that about white women. He could have warned him against it.
This just in, ladies are tricky.
I mean, he does kidnap her.
That's true. In their initial meeting, he is the bad guy for sure. He's a kidnapper, and he like holds her at gunpoint and makes her take him to her place, which is creepy.
Yeah,
and then she pushes him out the window. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's an amazing fall. I know that's a stuntman and not Piper, but that fall out of the window is bananas. Like, it's
I can't imagine these stuntmen. Oh man, it seems so dangerous.
Just throw yourself out of a glass window. Yeah.
Your job is to get hurt.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, or try not to get hurt. Do things that would hurt the people that are more important than you.
Yeah.
So Meg Foster does the Meg Foster thing and is a duplicitous, treacherous woman, and she's just great at it.
I mean, there's the Raymond St. Jacques as the
street preacher.
Street preacher. He did a great job.
He did a great job, and I think he's really important to Nada's journey because he's like, I think seeing him getting beat up by the cops is a big part of what radicalizes him.
Yeah, he's kind of a moral center for Nada.
Yeah, he's like, you can't beat up a preacher. Like, the police will do this sort of thing. These are just good people.
Yeah, a blind preacher?
Yeah, like, it's really like, he's like, the world isn't what I thought it was. Like,
maybe America isn't amazing.
Yeah. And so, he does a great job of doing that. And probably the last person that I would mention is George Buck Flower as the drifter / collaborator.
He's interesting.
He's the info dump guy. This guy has a crazy career where he started out doing softcore porn and has been in just a million B movies and TV shows and big movies, and like,
he looks familiar.
Yeah, he's kind of a character actor in a million things you've seen, like hundreds of credits on IMDb. Wow. And he's the exposition dump guy. Like, he explains everything, how they go to Andromeda or wherever galaxy they teleport off to.
Yeah, this is just a financial thing. This is just an expansion. It's not even malicious.
Yeah, and he's just like, might as well sell out and enjoy your life while you can.
Yeah, because we already lost. They already dominated our world.
Yeah.
So you might as well be on the side that gets paid.
There's a strong logic to it in a planet that's already colonized. Just getting your payout and having a comfortable life.
Sure, I mean,
he was sleeping outdoors before, and now he's in a tuxedo at a gala.
Exactly. Like, you can choose to join the resistance, or you can choose to just say, nah, fuck it.
Yeah,
we lost.
And yeah, so it's at the cost of your soul, basically, but you keep your life because Nada and Frank both die. Everyone who doesn't sell out dies, but they do manage to reveal the conspiracy to the world.
Yes, that is an interesting way that they kind of wrap it up with the revealing everything and all of that.
Yeah.
So, you ready for our wrap up?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, what's your personal highlight?
To me, it's the Justiceville sequence, which this is kind of long, but it's everything. Between Nada arriving at the homeless camp and the police raiding the camp and beating everyone, like that segment of the movie. And as Nada is uncovering, like he's getting to know the feel of the town and then of the camp, uncovering the conspiracy, and then having the cops roll in and bust everything up. That's the prime message part of the movie. It's where we're really getting the themes of the movie and what it's about. And Piper just does it so well, like the way the scales come off his eyes as he just sits there and just sort of lives amongst these people and sees all the stuff that's going on. I just think it's really, like you said, it's a show don't tell sort of thing, and it's just allowed to happen organically. And I just think that stuff's all beautifully acted and it's well shot, and it's the part of the movie that works the best for me. What about you? What's your highlight?
So I was really thinking about this because I was like, man, the movie doesn't have a lot of scenes that are just like obviously the big, amazing scene.
Unless you count the big fight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's actually the best part. No. I think that my favorite part was when, after he has the glasses and after he figures out all this stuff, and I love it when he is discovering it all and like taking them on, putting them in, taking them off, all that. And when he eventually then just goes on a rampage and starts killing people, and then, you know, and I loved the part when he comes into the bank and he says, "I'm here. I've come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum." I was like, "Oh man, that's where that quote is from." Oh my god, I thought that was from Duke Nukem. Yeah, and that whole rampage scene where he's on the lam, that's probably my favorite part.
The rampage is strong. Like when the two cops come and they kind of give him the hard sell, like, you know, this can work out for all of us, and he just straight up murks them out in the alley. I love it. And you're like, oh wow, I just didn't expect this movie to go this hard.
Yeah, like, it just got hella violent.
Yeah, and it's like it's like, you know, right then there's really no coming back from killing two cops. Like, nope. There's no happy ending once you've done that in a movie. Like, it's going to go bad for this guy. And so the stakes of the movie ramp up in a big way. You're like, he just needs to survive from scene to scene from here on out.
He's fully on the lam at this point. That's my personal highlight.
Very strong choice.
Thank you. What worked for you?
You know, the subtle as a brick subtext. I love that. Like I said this earlier, I think this expresses the similar ideas that The Matrix does in a more direct way. And I think it's easier to digest for people, whereas the Matrix hid it behind too much science fiction. This just uses just the thinnest veneer of science fiction.
Absolutely.
The iconic imagery, the obey, the consume, the this is your god, the alien, whether you call them ghouls or fascinators, that cool blue and red skull face. Yeah. All the imagery is great. And finally, the double act between Rowdy Piper and Keith David. This is just like, it becomes such a great sort of, I mean, they're not cops.
It's a buddy hobo movie.
It's a buddy hobo movie. Yeah. Itinerant laborers.
Itinerant laborer, drifter, homicidal alien killers.
Yeah. Buddy drifter movie. Yeah. And they are just so great together. I think, you know, Keith David is the more trained actor, and Roddy Piper has more of the action stuff baked in, and they fill in each other's gaps really well and skill and lift each other both up. It's like, it's the sort of pairing, like they become greater than the sum of their parts together.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, so what worked for you?
I mean, it's such a cop-out, but literally the same things that you just said.
Yeah.
I loved the subliminal messaging and the propaganda. I loved all that. That was probably my favorite element of the movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't a single scene, so that couldn't really be the personal highlight, but that theme of propaganda being hidden under a veneer of alien obfuscation, I love that. I absolutely loved the look of the aliens, the fascinators or whatever.
Yeah,
it was so cool.
I didn't know if you were going to like it or not. I was very like, is he going to think this is too cheap, or can he buy into it?
I like it when you can do something that really pulls it off, even if it's cheaply done, like The Shape. There's just so many movies where shit is expensive as hell and it's also hokey. This was not hokey in the least. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's really spooky. Like when you see the old lady become an alien, you're like, oh.
He's like, you're real fucking ugly.
I love that part. That's so good.
You're all right. You real fucking ugly.
It's so good because that's such a Roddy Piper thing to say. Like he would say that in an interview.
He goes, lady, you look like you fell in the cheese dip in 1955. What the hell does that mean?
It's just funny.
Yeah.
So I loved the disguises, and then I just nebulously wrote casting. I really liked these actors in these roles. I thought the leads in this movie were really good. It didn't need a bigger star. He was good enough.
Well, and every time you see an interview, when this movie comes up, when John Carpenter is getting interviewed, because he doesn't really direct movies anymore, so everything is always like a greatest hits. This movie comes out, he looks so proud of this movie when he talks about it, and he goes, I got a great performance out of Roddy. Like, and he really did, and he always says that, and he's like he just looks so vindicated when he thinks about it, you know. Like,
absolutely,
he knew he could do it, and he did it.
He had a vision of what he thought he could get Roddy to do. And did you know Roddy is short for Roderick?
I think I did know that. But if you asked me, I might not have been able to pull it out.
Yeah, I might have thought Rodney or something, but no, Roderick. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, he saw something in old Roderick, and he got it. He got what he saw. So what didn't work for you?
Well, I mean, we're just praising him, but I will say he's not a professional actor at this point, and there are some rough spots to his performance. There's some times when it's a little stiff and wooden. And like it's my sort of bias of what I imagine John Carpenter movies to be like, and me thinking, what would it be like with Kurt Russell? Like I just asked myself that so many times. But I think
in a couple more years you'll be able to ask AI and it will just do it for you.
Give me a 1-for-1 remake of 1988's They Live with Kurt Russell in place of Roddy Piper,
and it'll
populating, and then it just comes out. It won't be better.
No,
there's no way that it will be better. And so, but really, the big thing that I think that didn't work for me is once I feel like once Carpenter has sort of said his piece, he's sort of bored with the movie, and the ending becomes perfunctory. Like, it becomes just the sort of,
it's like the ending of the first Mad Max movie. It just happens.
We've got to run and gun to the top of the building and then blow up the satellite, and it just sort of loses all of the sort of the narrative pull that it had through the first 2/3 of the movie.
Yes,
are lost in that final action sequence. And so I was like, okay, we're all feeling the same way. We're all feeling like wrap it up at this point.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah. We understand what you're saying. Yeah. The message has been received.
Yeah, and now it's time for this to be over. And it's almost usually better to do the opposite, to where the end of the movie is the best part. Rather than the beginning, because the end is what you leave with in your mind when you come out of it. So it's always a bummer to sort of end on a down note. And he turns it around by putting a bunch of like flashy sex and violence stuff at the very end.
Yeah, like weird
to kind of snap your attention back as people wake up to the aliens. So he does turn it around, but I just feel like the momentum of the movie gets lost there.
Yeah.
What about you? What didn't work for you?
I did not like the music.
Okay.
I thought that took me out of it every time.
You heard the slide guitar or whatever?
Okay, so I think that the music should not be a character in the movie unless it's very special. Like in Halloween, the music is a character in the movie.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's iconic. In this movie, you can't make iconic movie music that's derivative.
Okay.
It needs to be interesting and unique. This is not interesting nor unique. It's craptacular. Like, it's just not good at all. Every time I noticed the music, I was like, boo, this is lame.
Well, he goes to that blues riff over and over again.
Like so many times. So every time I noticed it, I was taken out of it. But whenever I didn't notice it, when it just sort of creeps up on you, like in all the scenes and kind of the later third of the movie, I'm in it. Like, the music doesn't, I barely notice it. It's just good. It's going along. It's vibing with the whole deal, and everything's good. But whenever it's like, and I'm just like, fuck off with that. I'm tired of it.
It is. Like I said, I came around to it, but that was also how I felt watching it. I was like, this is not the John Carpenter music I'm used to.
Yeah, give me a synth. Like,
Yeah.
Like, give me something crazy. Anyway, so I didn't like that. And then that super long, ridiculous street fight. That was ridiculous.
Too much?
Too much. They needed, give me a good...
3 pages instead of 5 pages?
Give me a street fight in less than 3 minutes. That'd be fine. That's still a long-ass street fight.
Yeah, but it wouldn't set a record. Because this was the longest fight, continuous fight in a film when they did it.
It wasn't that good of a fight. It was okay.
It's a brawl.
Yeah.
It is a real...
It also isn't
believable. It's a Donnybrook.
It doesn't... It's not believable that people would beat the unholy shit out of somebody that hard because they wouldn't put on the glasses or to resist putting on the glasses. So, like, if you came up, you, like, come over, we meet up, and you're like, hey, dude, I put on these glasses, check it out. I'd be like, nah, I don't want to put them on. And you're like, put them the fuck on. I'd be like, whoa.
All right.
Chill out, dude. And you, like, hit me. I'd be like, if you touch me again, there's a big problem, dude. And you're like, put on the glasses. Like, you hit me to put on the glasses? Yes. All right, I'll put them on.
I would say, even if I didn't know the person, if a homeless guy I didn't know gave me a pair of sunglasses and was like, you need to put these on and see what the world looks like through them, I'd look real closely at them. Like, are they clean?
Are these gnarly? If not, I'll put them on.
Yeah.
It's faster than arguing about it.
You never want to argue with the homeless person. You want to be done with this interaction.
You either like, nah, man, and keep walking.
Oh, yeah.
Or if they are really insistent, okay, you put it on. Oh, wow, crazy, dude. And then hand it back. And then move on.
It's like what the lady says, where he says, you'll put them on and see what I see. And she says, whether I see it or not, I'm going to say that I do.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you're right. Like,
exactly. The premise of the fight was ridiculous. It didn't make sense. No one would fight that hard to either make someone do it or resist doing it.
Yeah.
If you're in either person's shoes, you would not fight that hard.
You would have given up
You'd
earlier.
Be like, you'd use your words. You'd be like, bro, check this out. I know you don't want to put them on. I know you're fed up with me. I know you're mad at me. I know you hate me, blah, blah, blah. Look, I know I murdered some people. But these glasses revealed aliens. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay, Dave's crazy now. I better put these on.
Before he kills me. Like, he's killed and he may kill again.
Yeah, you would, on either side of that argument, it would not be a 6-minute street brawl. It would have either resolved much more quickly or just parted ways.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it was like,
it's too much.
Get out of here with this.
Like I said, I said this off mic, but that's when we lost Lisa. She was in watching the movie with me, and she's like, this is too much. Like, she gets up and leaves.
Like, the thing is the first half of this movie is engaging.
Yeah.
It's weirdly slow, but really engaging.
Yeah.
And then as it picks up and ramps up, I'm kind of into it because I like the rampage.
Yeah.
But then when it kind of goes into the tunnels and stuff, it's like, how is it possible that this is getting less interesting?
Well, it is weird that the more sci-fi it goes, the less you engage with it.
Yeah, it was weird. Anyway, that's what didn't work. The big points were the music and that fight.
Yeah.
They're just weird to me. So what did you rate this bad boy?
I rolled around with this for a while, but I think it's a very like punk rock film. Mm-hmm. And so the rough spots add to the charm rather than take away from it. And I think this is a 4-star. It's probably like top 5 John Carpenter movies.
Interesting. So I really thought about it and I was like, man, this is a fun ass movie. Mm-hmm. I really, really like Piper. I really like these alien face skull dudes. The one-liners are great. But the more I thought about it and kind of sat with it, I just don't think this is a fully unqualified recommend for all people. Like, for me, a 4... So a 5 is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
A 4 is an unqualified recommend.
Right.
Everyone should watch it. A 3 is a good movie for the right person.
Right.
That's what this is.
That's fair.
And I think... Because I just think, like, if you showed this to, like, I don't know, show this to my in-laws, they'd be like...
What the hell is this?
What's going on with this, David? It's not that level. It's not like a 4 where you just like anybody will like the movie. Yeah. And so I think it's a 3. We're similar with the general ratings, although some of them are weird. Like 7.2 on IMDb, that's right with us. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 87, so that's like a 4.5 star movie basically. Yeah. Metacritic gives it 55%.
Wow.
Brutal.
That's so low.
Yeah, less than a 3-star movie. And then the aggregate Google likes are 93%, which is kind of off the charts. But that's all rose-tinted glasses there.
Metacritic, that's wild.
Yeah.
But that just shows, like, that's to your point, right? This is not going to be everyone's flavor.
Yeah, this movie is really for people interested in, like, culty movies.
Yeah. But it's weird that, like, out of all the sort of John Carpenter movies, this one was successful right from the jump. You know what I mean? Like, this one did well at the theater. I think it's the time that it was released in. It is very of its time. You know, like, it's a very 1988, speaking to the moment that it was in.
Absolutely. This movie feels 80s, and it definitely feels like a Cold War era reactionary movie to capitalist dominance. All right, so let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back with The Vault of Darkness.
Before we delve into the Vault of Darkness, we ask that all initiates of the cult follow us on your favorite social media platforms at Nightshade Cult.
If you've enjoyed this content, help us grow the cult by sharing it with like-minded people. Leave us a like and review wherever you listen, and a comment, and an upvote, and a subscribe, and ring the bell, and all of that. Because YouTube is our main platform now.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but it's not a flash in the pan.
Yeah. And let's just say Cultist Lance, Cultist James, Cultist Ted, you guys are always liking and commenting on everything.
Yeah, thanks for the comments, guys. We really appreciate it.
We love chatting with you guys on there, and the more you do that, the more other people see this stuff.
Yeah, because, we get some traction here and there.
Yeah.
So I don't have any dark tidings this time. There were a few little tiny things, but nothing critical.
Yeah, no, I didn't really have any dark tidings either.
The real darkest of tidings
is the election.
This comes out right before the election. And so, one way or the other.
Yeah,
Either we have a crazy injustice or an insurrection or some crazy thing.
It's more of a nail biter than I want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I want politics boring.
Yeah, I saw your ballots upstairs. We already turned in ours, and then I saw on the news, of course, terrorists have lit some of the ballot boxes on fire, and so
they call themselves patriots, actually.
They would. And so I went to the Secretary of State website to make sure my ballots had been received. My one ballot and my wife's one ballot. Let me be clear. I didn't turn in 2 ballots.
Your ballots? Yes.
With my name on them. No, I turned in 1.
I mean, what about your cat's ballots?
No, there's no voter fraud in our house.
Yet.
It hasn't yet. We haven't resorted to that. So yeah, make sure your ballots get received, because people are lighting them on fire, and that's the times that we live in.
Absolutely. Especially if you live in a swing state, which we definitely have a few listeners that do. Mm-hmm. We live in a pretty solidly blue electoral. So, but all of the undercard, all of the down ballot stuff matters. Super important.
Yeah. All right, that out of the way.
Yeah.
What are you pulling out of the Vault of Darkness for us?
All right, so I was really trying to think of something on topic with this, and so my mind just went to dystopian, and somehow it became cyberpunk.
Oh, surprise.
I like cyberpunk stuff, not the cyberpunk video game, not even the cyberpunk Red role-playing game, but instead...
But you do like that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, I very much love that stuff. I'm choosing a book. But if you're not a book person, they also made it into a Netflix show. Oh. And they also made it into a tabletop RPG. And you can hear it on audiobook. So however you want to have it, you can have Altered Carbon.
Oh, okay.
So if you have not watched the Netflix show, or you have, because it only got 2 seasons before Netflix canned it, but there's also a series of novels, and I had read these novels before the show even came out, because I at one point I just decided, okay, I like cyberpunk, I want to read all the good ones, and so I started a thread on socials and got a bunch of I think it was actually on Twitter back when it was like Jack Dorsey's Twitter, OG, before I stopped using that platform, and I just talked to a bunch of people, and this book series kept coming up over and over again, and just honorable mention, I almost went with The Electric Church, the Avery Cates series, which is also a cyberpunk series that I have also read, but I liked this one slightly more. Okay. So this is a 2002 released cyberpunk novel by Richard K. Morgan. It's kind of set in a far future where humans have interstellar travel, and if you have the money, you can have relative immortality, because humans have perfected the encoding of human consciousness and sentience into code. We have passed the singularity, if you're familiar with the theory. And so they're able to store you indefinitely in computers and stuff. And so people who can't afford bodies or whatever will sometimes live in virtual suites that their families maintain, etc. But if you have money or skills, or you're still alive in your first lifetime, and you have your original body, which they call a sleeve, you can live. But then when everyone's consciousness is stored on a cortical stack, which is like kind of like a data puck that's kept at like the base of your spine, and that can be removed. It can also be digitally uploaded, and they can do what's called needle casting, where they literally like beam your code to a different place where you put in a new stack and you put in a new body. And so they have these rich people that are essentially immortal. They're super, like, the Musks and the Bezoses, and they live entirely different lives, immortal, above us all. And then there are the regular people. And this series follows a former military guy who turns private investigator named Takashi Kovacs, and he's like a really cool, interesting guy who ends up doing some mercenary work and ends up doing some investigative stuff on Earth. The first book is largely on Earth, and then later stuff gets out into the solar system and whatnot, and does space stuff. But this is a super good cyberpunk series. If you're interested in the books, of course, the books are better. But the Netflix series is worth watching. Both seasons are good. I like the actors, that they have a different star in each of the 2 seasons, which totally works in this series, because it's just the sleeve that the cortical stack is put into.
Are they playing the same character?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's the same. It's both Takashi Kovacs, but it's just in different bodies, which is normal.
Cultist Corey is a big booster of this series and had been on me for a long time.
Absolutely
to watch it.
Worth it. You should check it out. I mean, even if you just put on the audiobooks, or just try the first one called Altered Carbon, or if you run out of stuff to stream, toss on the Netflix series to see if you like the premise. I think it's pretty good.
Interesting. You describing it does sound thematically very closely tied to the cyberpunk video game. Like it's borrowing quite a bit from. The game is borrowing a lot from.
I mean, this is out more than 20 years ago, and it's really cool how this translates to a cyberpunk role-playing game so well. Because you can literally upgrade your body. You can get these, they call them like a tech ninja sleeve, that are like developed by Japanese military corporations that are super hyper gene modified and the whole deal. And then they have other ones that are purpose-built bodies for different things that people buy. And it's just really interesting. It brings a whole new level to the idea of consciousness is code, or is there something more than that in a soul? You know, all that kind of question, like Cyberpunk.
Yeah, totally. And I just, I don't know if we've talked about this, but I just recently did a new playthrough of that game, which is not something that I generally do. I don't usually play games through and explore different pathways and stuff. Like, that's something I know you do that. A lot of people do that. And I'm usually sort of like, one time through, it's like, those are my choices, and and I don't really want to revisit it. But it was interesting going through with a new character, and I did a lot of the same things, but made some different choices. Like, the new character definitely had somehow a different personality than my first character.
Absolutely.
And it's just interesting how that happens. It's an interesting world, that cyberpunk world of Night City.
Yeah, I really enjoy that world, and I think Altered Carbon is, obviously it's not in the same world, and neither is any of the Neuromancer stuff and all of that, or the Avery Cates Electric Church stuff. But it all feels
of a piece. Yeah,
it feels like it just flows along with Blade Runner and all of that. I like the genre. It might be too genre-y to be original at this point. Yeah, but I don't care. It's like people who still like watching westerns.
Yeah. So if you had to put your consciousness into a video game, just as a like you said, as a digital suite, where you're hanging out there in that digital suite until ultimately, hopefully, we get you a new sleeve to put your consciousness into. But you're just going to be spinning your wheels in a game. Yeah. What game is it?
I mean,
there's some big sandboxes that you could hide around and just chill in.
Yeah, the games I've played the most hours in probably are the most logical choices, because I obviously really like them. Well, I just like them the best. Like, I really enjoy living in Fallout, like Fallout 4. I just really enjoy that, but that's a little bleak for me. Maybe Cyberpunk, because
it's also very bleak.
It is, but you can just go down to a noodle shop and hang out for a while. Like, there are moments of levity. You can go to a rock concert. It's not like Fallout, where you go someplace and you're just ambushed by cannibal ghouls or something.
Yeah, there's not a ton of that, of sort of random violence. You can get caught in the crossfire or things like that very easily in Cyberpunk, but generally the gangs just sort of do their thing.
You can run away and they'll let you run away.
Yeah. I mean, bleak as it is a world. It's a big enough map.
You could live in a mega building and be okay.
You could hang out for a while, like hopefully we raise the money, we get a new body to put you into.
Well, and
it's not permanent.
The Netflix show explores this a little bit. Like, there's a friend of Takeshi's, and they're able to bring grandma out once a year for the holidays and get her temporarily sleeved and stuff like
to rent
that.
A sleeve?
Yeah, you rent a sleeve to put the stack into and et cetera. And it's like, it's kind of grim when it's so class based. Like, it's like, well, you don't have enough money, or my kid had a terminal disease, so now they live in this full synthetic garbage sleeve that's basically like just a clunky ass piece of shit robot thing,
android body.
Yeah, and it's like it's really grim. It's a pretty cool series. I definitely highly recommend it. I've only read it once. I'm gonna read it again. It's that good. It's that good. All right, so what are you pulling from the vault?
I'm pulling out a book as well, and I thought...
man, we're readers.
Yeah, I thought that this movie, because I thought the movie expressed the ideas of this book so well, I wanted to put people onto this, because it's a philosophical treatise that because of the success of The Matrix, people don't understand what these words mean. And so I'm going to recommend Simulacra and Simulation by Jean Baudrillard. And it is, like I said, a philosophical treatise that examines the relationship between reality, symbols, and society. In particular, the significations and symbolism of culture and media involved in constructing our understanding of a shared existence. Because when after The Matrix, you always hear people say there's some people that think we live in a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're imagining is a coaxial cable jammed in the back of your head and you're living in a computer program.
Yes.
But the reality is we live in a world where we're constantly bombarded by images 24/7.
Absolutely.
And we are being influenced all of the time. And the only time that you're not being influenced by these images and these messages is like if you were literally in the woods hunting and gathering like a primitive person. The rest of the time, all of us with our phones in our pockets, or even just listening to the radio, or seeing magazines, listening to podcasts, watching TV, you are constantly being inundated with these things that are distorting your reality. I think this book is like more or less essential for understanding living in the 21st century. You don't even have to read the whole thing because a philosophical treatise isn't for everyone. Just get the first few chapters in and you will get the message of it. And if the message of this movie appealed to you in the slightest, the movie is talking about the same thing as the book.
Okay.
So I think it's something that most people would get something from if they were to read this book or listen to the audiobook version.
That's really cool.
So,
I haven't done a lot of philosophical treatise listening.
Yeah.
I think the last one I listened to was probably the Book of Five Rings. So,
Ooh, Musashi.
Yeah. Classic stuff.
Yeah. And I think most of the audiobook is just free on YouTube, and I can put that link in our notes. And
yeah, you would be surprised how many free audiobooks are on YouTube, even big name ones. You can find them, just people reading them aloud on there. Somehow it's not copyright protected if you are just reading something out loud.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I'll make sure to link that in our show notes. And I think, if you like They Live, you'll probably dig this.
We'd like to thank you for joining the Nightshade Cult.
Until we meet again, we're wishing you unpleasant dreams.